Looks like we may be going to war, folks, as the U.S. Navy destroyer out in the Red Sea has just shot down cruise missiles that seem to be aimed at Israel. This is getting way out of hand now.
The crew of the guided missile destroyer USS Carney, operating in the northern Red Sea earlier today, shot down 3 land attack cruise missiles and several drones that were launched by Houthi forces in Yemen. This action was a demonstration of the integrated air and missile defense architecture that we have built in the Middle East and that we are prepared to utilize whenever necessary to protect our partners and our interests in this important region. There were no casualties to U.S. forces and none that we know of to any civilians on the ground. Information about these engagements is still being processed. We cannot say for certain what these missiles and drones were targeting, but they were launched from Yemen, heading north along the Red Sea, potentially towards targets in Israel.
We all know that we have a huge target on our backs with this government backing 2 different wars at the same time. But where's the limit here? I mean, I saw an article about domestic terrorism earlier this year at the U.S. Government Accountability Office, but I didn't think that we would actually hear warnings about them happening towards the end of this year. So it puts into perspective what's been done by the powers that be to protect us, huh?
Despite the many similarities, the FBI distinguishes domestic terrorism extremists from homegrown violent extremists.
With material support to a domestic terrorism group, and we actually do not have designated domestic terrorism groups.
Designating domestic groups as domestic terrorist organizations and picking out particular groups that you say you disagree with their views and so forth is going to be highly problematic in a way that's not when you're designating Al-Qaeda or ISIS or an international terrorist organization.
Any cases can be opened as domestic terrorism cases, but there's no charge of domestic terrorism.
You know what? The next election should have an option on the ballots, including what a particular lawmaker has done for the American people. I'm talking about bills and legislations here, right? Which ones did they vote yes or no on? And do they do their best to actually help out the American people? Do you guys think that's a good idea? If you do, make sure you smash the like button for the video. It really helps out spreading the word and what's happening here at home. And while you guys are at it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on all notifications so that you guys can stay up to date on what truly matters to all of us here in America. Appreciate the love, you guys. Now, since we talked about the future, I want to know how you guys feel about the coming year, 2024. I'm talking in terms of labor and the economy here, all right? Do you feel good? You feel bad? Neutral maybe? So the scariest part of all of this is that despite the facts and the numbers that are out there, we still hear news as if things are okay and that we're recovering. So how's this for recovering? Banks are quietly cutting thousands of jobs this year. Quite a recovery, huh? But of course, strong economy would only mean one thing. The Fed can continue to raise interest rates and inflict even more pain on the average American consumer.
We certainly have a very resilient economy on our hands. We've got the economy growing strongly. If you think back a year, many forecasts called for the U.S. economy to be in recession this year. Not only has that not happened, growth is now running for this year above its longer run trend. So that's been a surprise, driven largely by consumer spending, driven by a very strong job market with people getting jobs with first high nominal wages, and then as inflation has come down, real wages, which is spurring spending. And we've also had inflation coming down. So, it really is a story of much stronger demand. There may be some ways in which the economy is less affected by interest rates. It's hard to know precisely, but for example, many companies, any company with bond market access will have termed out its debt, right? And therefore may not be feeling the effects of higher rates. The same may be true of homeowners who have a long-term fixed rate, low rate mortgage, who then are therefore not, because it's not an adjustable rate or a higher rate, they're not feeling that increase in rates. So the economy may be somewhat less susceptible to the effects of rate increases.
How many of you guys aren't affected by rising interest rates? Show of hands, maybe? And I mean, like, let's talk about the strong demand. It's a thing of wonder, isn't it? Like, I'm not sure if Jerome Powell lives on a different planet, but I guess he doesn't stay as updated on this stuff like you and I do. Because look at this, guys. Union Pacific, that railroad company, well, they're seeing their profits plummet. And I mean, it took a nosedive. Their third quarter profits were down a whopping 19% as they're now hauling fewer shipments while their costs continue to go up. But hey, at least their new CEO announced that the average speed of their trains improved by at least 5%. Whoop-de-doo. Get ready for that next train derailment, huh? Like, how are we going to say that consumers are resilient? That we're spending like there's no tomorrow when companies like Union Pacific are already reporting less shipments? How's that happening? How's that possible? Like I said a while ago, the Fed is contemplating multiple rate hikes still because of this strength, this resilience that I, for one, and I'm not sure where the heck they're seeing it, because this is going to cause a ripple effect. It's not going to be in just one mode of transportation of goods. We're seeing it in cargo ships. We're seeing it with trucking, with deliveries. I mean, like, just think about the impact, not only with the economy, but with the labor market. And if there's less to nothing being unloaded on these cargo ships, then they would need to cut down on workers. And the same thing with trucking. They're going to probably let a couple of their drivers go and, let's get to delivery companies and warehouses. Like, how many people are going to be laid off because of this lack of demand, right? And this is exactly the reason why I'm telling you guys. This is, of course, based solely on my opinion. I'm not a financial expert. I'm just looking at the patterns, looking at the trends. This is the worst time to take on big loans, especially with these mortgage rates, right? I mean, give me a break, guys. But at least one person thinks that this is the exact time to get into the housing market. And that person is Shark Tank Barbara Cochran, who also happens to be heavily invested in real estate. But don't worry, that has absolutely nothing to do with her opinion on the housing market. You know what I mean? She also said that this is the best rate we're going to see because the days of 2 and 3% mortgage rates are gone forever. And I mean, like, is she for real? Maybe she is. It's like a car sales agent from Tesla telling you, like, this is the best time to get an EV because, even with the infrastructure and how it's going so far from a supporting standpoint and, all the energy, all this new energy needed, this is the cheapest price you're going to get. It's crazy, I tell you, I know. But what do you guys think? Is it time to take advantage of mortgage rates at around 8% and rising? Or will housing prices, much like the collapse back in 2008, go back down to earth as expected? Make sure you guys share your thoughts on all of today's updates. And before I go, I want to thank you guys for hanging out. Thanks for dropping a like for the video. Thank you for subscribing, and I'm gonna catch you guys on the next one.